This is the June 16th Lakecrest board meeting, and these are the agenda items. You can pause this if you wish to review it in a little more detail. I'm just going to scan the documents. Okay, this is the K&N maintenance contract. This is the existing landscape company contract. Feel free to pause this so you can read it in detail. I'll flip the pages. It's double-sided.
You and I might be the only ones who cover it.
Again, pause if you want to read in detail.
What's your name? Carol. Carol, nice to meet you. You too. Thank you. Very nice. Glad you could come. All right, well, you go over there and well, of course. Let me sit here. It's, well, that's Forrest.
No, I'm not here. You were late. I'm at the clubhouse.
Well, he'll come when he comes.
He's late. I said, dude, if you're not here at 5:15.
All right, like I said, feel free to rewind and pause. That's the original K&N, the existing landscape company's contract. That's had some challenges. They're not licensed, for example, for fertilizer or pest control, even though it's built into the contract. We're not quite ready yet. Good. Landscape folks over here. Board, Emily. Currently 15 people in attendance. Bring it back when it starts.
5:30, we're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. And it's Wednesday, June 16th at 5:30. And Emily is gone.
I think she will be right back.
So, all right. We're following the agenda.
No, I think the concern is that.
Hang on. Hey Steve, we're getting feedback on your phone.
I think it's your phone, Vic.
I'm not connected to Zoom.
Yeah, I'm not getting feedback on my phone.
I would put his
Okay.
headset in.
I hear my voice echoing in the background, so it's on something there.
That might be the last.
It's probably your computer.
No?
Hello?
Yeah, I turned down the volume and it's been on mute.
Okay. There, it's working.
Alright, good deal.
Okay.
So start over again. Blake Darby with Yellowstone Landscape. I'm a business development manager. I've been with Yellowstone for 13 years. I was previously an account manager, and I was also a branch manager at one point. So now I'm a business developer. It's funny, so at this property, I've been here in some capacity 4 times as far as the bid process. But unfortunately, we've never gotten it. I was an account manager at one point that wouldn't manage your community. I was a branch manager, which would have been, I guess, the head of our branch at the time, and then business developer, which was last year. Now this 4th year.
So, how's everybody doing? My name is Garrett Kennedy. I'm the operations manager for a branch here in Jacksonville. So a little bit about my background. Graduated from the University of Georgia. Been in the industry about 10 years now. This is my 4th year with Yellowstone. Again, I was an account manager like Blake was for a few years, and then I stepped into the operations manager role now, which is basically just helping run the entire branch. So, yep.
So what we'll go into now is just kind of our capabilities here in Jacksonville. So this is just a quick picture of our team. We took this at one of our recent safety meetings. So we are a full-service landscape maintenance company. We do everything in-house. So your irrigation, that's going to be in-house. That would be Yellowstone doing that work. Your chem-ferp, so all your fertilization, your pesticide applications, that's us. We also have an arborist and an arbor team on staff. So if we need to come out, do a tree assessment free of charge, we can do that as long as we're your client. If you choose us to do the work, the arbor work, we would love to, but again, you don't have to, you can use your own vendor. We are also, go into here real quick. Okay, jump ahead there a little bit. So as far as our irrigation, we have 12 techs that work throughout Jacksonville. We do a lot of troubleshooting. We have 2 irrigation managers. One is strictly scheduling, and the other one is troubleshooting. Landscape design, we have a full-time landscape designer here in Jacksonville. Wish he could have come tonight, but he's available at your disposal. So if you want landscape designs, we can do them free of charge. I know you guys have a committee team that kind of does improvements around the property. If you want us to consult on it, do landscape plans, landscape renderings, we can do that free of charge. Obviously, we would love to do the work again, but you know, it's up to you guys, whether you want us to do it or not. So, just again, another service that we offer. All right. This is just some of our equipment that we have. We have 2 leaf vacuum trucks. We obviously know out here, there's so much canopy. Leaf removal is a big issue out here. So we would utilize our resources. We find that this is the most efficient way. What we can do is we can blow it all into a pile, suck it right up. What it does too is it also mulches it up so we can carry twice as much debris. So you know, we're not dealing with bags, burlap sacks, we're not having to make a lot of trips. So it's really efficient. And like I mentioned, you can carry about twice as much debris.
Yeah, so we have several properties that are similar to this one where you guys have a ton of tree canopies everywhere. So obviously in the winter, you know, majority of your maintenance time is spent picking up leaves, getting everything cleaned up. So we're constantly, like Blake said, we have this leaf vacuum that we utilize that's awesome. We also are looking for other ways to utilize different vacuums that you pull behind trucks, mowers, things like that. So we're constantly looking for ways to improve. So that's a constant thing. Just wanted to mention that we feel like we're on the front end of leaf removal as far as finding new ways to do things and just be efficient as possible. That way it's always clean for you guys.
Do you have hoses that hook up to that truck where you can extend out?
Exactly. Yep, we do.
And what's the length of the hose?
So the hose that we currently have, I want to say you can get about 10 feet from the truck. Just because the further you get from the truck, you lose suction, obviously. So the one we currently have is about 10 feet. Like Blake mentioned, the way we typically do it is all the guys will blow into a pile, and then we typically leave them on like the side of the parking lot or in the bed, and then we'll come by, scoop those up, and then move on.
This is just a picture of our arbor team. Like I mentioned before, we have an arborist at the disposal as well. It's a great team. It's kind of a smaller operation. We don't want to get big because what we do is maintenance. We're not an install company, we're a maintenance company. But we find that a lot of our clients have requested this, especially over the past with the hurricanes. So it's really to try to make sure that we can take care of our clients.
Yeah, so we have 2 crews currently, and with those crews, we've got chip trucks, bucket trucks. We follow all the ANSI certifications for tree care work. So we're not just coming out here with a truck and a chainsaw. You know, we're certified in everything. We've got all the equipment. Like I mentioned, chip trucks, bucket trucks, grapple trucks, pretty much everything we need, lifts, pretty much everything. So we've got 2 crews that we're currently running. Like Blake said, we do like to keep it smaller, so we've got about 2 5-man teams that we run with our arbor manager who oversees that, who's got about 15 to 20 years experience in the industry. He's really, really good, so that's at your disposal as well.
Okay, just about our Yellowstone team here in Jacksonville. This is a really cool picture. This is after our season in 2020. So the biggest challenge that we have is retention of labor and getting good guys. If you ask any landscape company, they'll probably tell you the same. So what we've tried to do is really focus on how we can keep our employees, how we can build our team. So this is just a picture of all of our guys that got bonuses at the end of the season. How these bonuses kind of shake out is all they have to do is show up on time every day. Second is work safely, wear all their proper PPE, and then third, just don't have any safety violations. And it's a great thing. The guys loved it. And what did they get? 2,000?
Yeah. So how it works is they basically get $2,000 at the end of the year. It's a bonus. I'm pretty sure we're one of the only landscape companies that does it. And as you guys know, labor in general, I don't care what industry you're in, it's tough right now. It's particularly tough for us. So one of the things that we do try and utilize is this incentive bonus where basically, like Blake said, if they show up on time, just do the stuff you're supposed to do. We're really big on safety. So if you ever see our guys, they're wearing vests, bright colored shirts, steel-toed boots, earplugs, glasses, the works, always. And that is the expectation 100% of the time, and we try and really push that. So if they do these things, which it's not hard to do, at the end of the year, they're going to get a bonus, which is awesome. I know I like getting bonuses, and you too. So.
Right. And another, I don't have any images of it, but we also participate. We also participate in an H-2B program. It's where we get permitted workers from Mexico and Guatemala. They come here for 8 months, they work for us, we provide their housing, and then they go back home. We've got the same guys that come every year. They've got driver's licenses. They can fill in as a foreman if needed, but they're great guys. They just come to work, and it's been very helpful to have them on our staff.
It's huge, honestly. They work extremely hard. Again, they're over here for about 7 to 8 months a year, and it's the same guys we get year after year. So they know our properties. They know how we do things, and they're really, really good for us.
Excuse me, could I ask a question? You mentioned about the irrigation.
Mm-hmm.
Does that include the repair of irrigation, and does that include any parts that are needed, or are there additional charges?
So there would be additional charges. So this would just be for your monthly maintenance. So what we would do is we would come in initially, and I can cover this a little bit down, and a little bit down the way. But we would come in and do a thorough irrigation audit the first 30 days that we're here, and kind of come up, see what issues that you have, and then from there, we would propose any areas that may not be working, any areas that are lacking coverage, and then kind of go from there. But yeah, so it would just
be an additional charge?
Additional charge
for the repairs.
For the repairs, yes, ma'am. So it's just the inspection.
What is your hourly rate?
So that's $55 an hour.
Per man?
Per man, yes. So on this next slide, this is just a picture of our safety rodeo. This was this year's early spring. Just what happens is we get all the guys together, we do a lot of training. Each account manager will have their own kind of set station where they talk about proper use of PPE, chainsaws, two-cycle equipment, mowers. It's just a great way to get all the guys together and continue trying to make sure that these guys are doing everything or know exactly what they need to do when they're out on site. So again, I know we've covered this a few times, but we're committed to safety. This is just a list of some of our equipment here in Jacksonville. I can go through all this, but just some of the main stuff. We've already touched on it: the grapple truck, the boom truck, all of our heavy equipment, construction equipment, so Caterpillars, all that stuff, we own it. We're always looking for the best equipment, always kind of working out old equipment, bringing in new equipment. We've got 2 full-time mechanics that are constantly working on all the equipment to make sure it's working properly.
Did you pay your laborers $35 an hour?
What's that?
55.
55.
I'm talking about laborers. That's not your labor.
That's not them. That is not
That's a
them.
different.
So here's just some pictures from our shop that we included. Again, some of our heavy equipment. There's one of our lead vacuum trucks. This is actually, on the bottom left is our blade changing station. We do that twice a week. So each mechanic will sharpen all the blades, and the guys are just responsible for changing them out. So One crew will be Monday, Wednesday, other one will be Tuesday, Thursday.
And why that's so important is your quality of cut in your turf. So we require, based on who the account manager you work for, that's what day you're changing your blades. So every crew changes their blades twice a week. Like I said, we always have sharp blades for them, so they get those changed out. That way, you can really tell a difference. When you've got a mower out there that doesn't have sharp blades, it hasn't had sharp blades in weeks, and then you get a mower out there that has them, you can really tell the difference. So we really push on that. Again, that's just one of the little details that we really like to push on that we feel like makes us stand out. Just little things like that that count on your property. You can see it.
All right. So when we did the proposal process, we did a summary of observations at your current state, just things that we see, and obviously feel like we could definitely make an improvement for your property. Just to kind of go through some of these pictures, the top picture is your annual bed out front in front of one of your main marquee signs. It's loaded with sedge, and obviously that's something that we would do first thing in the morning when you come in and kind of clean up your marquee area. So, again, I don't want to bash any landscape company. It's challenging, so please know that this is mainly a tool that we use. It's actually an app that we have on our phones that we can do for our foreman. So what we'll do is we'll drive the property, we'll make lists with its exact same template, and we can hand this to the foreman so they know what to address. So this is more for them, but it's just a good tool to show you guys what we see.
Like, how many days will you guys be on property?
So we will be on site 2 days a week during the growing season, and then weekly during the not growing season.
You mean weekly, like once weekly?
Yeah, once weekly. Yep.
And what size crew?
So it's going to be a 3 to 4 man group. So typically our account manager, and then we have superintendents as well, and then you would have your true crew, which would be your foreman and your 2 service workers.
So is that 5 or 3?
So your dedicated team that will be here all day is going to be 3, but we'll also supplement with if you need additional help. But we also have superintendents that are working. A lot of our account managers will work on site alongside with them. So yeah, it'll vary.
What's the work day?
Work day. So we typically work our guys Monday through Thursday with the idea that Friday would be a rain event that we can make up. So we usually will meet with the board or the property manager and kind of come up with a day, but it would be 2 consistent days. So whether it be
I'm asking how many hours per day?
Oh, it's a full day.
Folks out here that would go about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, no, that's not a full day for us. So our crews, we start at 6:30, so our goal is to have them out of the shop at 6:30. So our shop is about 15 minutes away from here, so they would typically be here before 7 o'clock a.m. I don't know what. Yeah, I was going to ask you about. So what we typically do with that is, I know you guys don't want us running equipment, so that's where we said, you know, what Blake alluded to a little bit ago. We would start up at the front. That's when we're going to hand pull weeds for an hour or however long that takes. I know some places are 8 o'clock, 8:30. Whatever it is, we would make that work. So we got plenty of stuff that we can do without running anything. So we can get detailed stuff done personally.
Like, did you guys, I know we talked about this during the interview process, did you guys decide on doing the property sections?
Yes, so I was going to get to that. Yeah, certainly.
When does your day end?
So it typically, we're going to get here roughly about 7 o'clock, and it would end probably about 3 or 4. It's usually about 9 hours, 9 to 10 hour day.
It depends. It's going to be different every time we come. You know, we could come, you know, on a day after a storm or something like that. There's obviously going to be more debris cleanup. We like to get the job done before we leave. So we'll have crews that roll in sometimes 5:30. It just depends on what the day holds. You know, if it's beautiful out and we get awesome Florida weather and, you know, it hasn't stormed or anything, maybe we're just doing our regular routine. You know, if we, like I said, come out the day after a storm, we got branches down, a lot of leaves, some extra work that we need to take care of. We're going to make sure we do that for you.
Will there be specific days that you guys are here? So
Okay.
if you're like Thursday, Friday.
Yes,
So
we can make that work, whatever you guys need.
Yeah, so definitely. So it's Monday, Tuesday.
So we like to do Monday through Thursday because we leave that Friday as a makeup day. In case it rains a lot here, so we like to leave that open.
When you're doing your blowing process? Does that include blowing behind the hedges, between the hedges and the buildings?
Yeah, so especially during the leaf removal process, we're gonna come in and really kind of pull everything
I'm
out.
asking, I'm saying, you know, like, every, I don't know how it would be set up, you know, what board wanted to set up and blow out behind the hedges, but, you know, these buildings are stucco and
Right.
leaves, and all of the companies here is blowing leaves up underneath the hedges, then the rains come, and then the stucco rots.
Right.
We have to, you know, prepare this.
Yeah. So especially during the winter months, I was gonna show you a map here shortly, just kind of how we go through it and how we have it sectioned off, and it can change, but if you don't mind, can we jump back to that here in a few slides?
Yeah, real question.
Yeah,
I know
sure.
it's spoken, right after we had met.
Yep.
And I know you're doing leaf removal, but
Yeah.
I don't see it here again.
So as far as the cost, it's
To
not on
actually
there.
put it on there in this contract. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Okay, I see it here.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, so
but
I can do
mean,
that.
Yeah, just so it's written somewhere.
Yeah,
so,
certainly.
you know,
Yeah,
We're,
this
we
is a
want things
proposal.
super tight.
It's not a contract.
Right, no, but I'm just
So-
saying, when it gets to the contract, I just wanna make sure it's in this.
Yes,
it's
we'll have
listed.
time to.
Okay.
Does this proposal include the center island on Bell Reef?
That was in the RFP.
Yes, yeah. So just out front, right?
And now, as far as trimming the palmettos, is that included?
So what we discussed was if the palmettos are already maintained, we will keep them maintained. So we're not talking about coming in and cleaning all of your palmetto. I know the committee's been cleaning those out. So in all the areas that are already cleaned out, yes, we would continue to keep those clean.
And as we clean more out next season, we'll be adding them.
Right,
So as long as we clean them out, you will maintain them.
correct. Yep. As you guys know, it takes a lot of labor to do that, so we're gonna come in here and polish those.
If we show 10 areas that have been cleaned out, and we decide to clean out another 10, you're gonna maintain 20 areas for the same price?
We would, but we may have to renegotiate, I don't think it would be an issue, but maybe at some point we would have to look at that and potentially renegotiate.
Okay.
Potentially, and again, we probably wouldn't do that, or I can guarantee you, we do not do that within your first year, but if we're talking about year 2 of the agreement, then we would look at that. But again, we try not to nickel and dime you.
Sure.
And if we're able to maintain the area efficiently, we were happy to.
Image number 2 up here.
Yes.
Recommend spraying during maintenance visit.
Yes.
What chemical do you use?
So we use a combination. So we do use Roundup, but we also have other chemicals that we can use if you guys are against Roundup.
Okay, and Roundup, what potential does that have for harming the trees that are sensitive to chemicals?
So we wouldn't spray it on the tree, we'd spray it on the actual plant in the soil. We would refrain from spraying on any bush or tree. So again, we wouldn't spray it on that tree. And more of what you see there is more to establish that tree ring, because a lot of these areas don't have tree rings anymore. So we would maybe get the weeds out first and then mechanically edge those areas to keep them clean.
So
With the chemical.
Roundup does not, it can't be taken up through the stem of the plant, it's taken up through the leaves. So you spray that chemical on the leaf, and then it translocates down, and that's what kills the plant or the weed. So a tree, if you're spraying that, you can spray it on the bark while you want all moving.
Okay.
Yeah, the tree doesn't take up chemical like that, it's gonna do it below the ground, and like I said, Roundup only works, it's a contact herbicide, so that's how it works.
So would you notify the homeowners when you're aerial spraying so they're closing their windows?
Yeah, so as far as our blanket applications, we can communicate with Emily and the board and let you know when we're gonna be doing a blanket application.
Put out a mass email so the homeowners?
Yeah, and we also, we leave stakes everywhere that we spray. So immediately after we spray something, if it's the turf, you're going to see a stake in the ground that's saying, "Hey, Yellowstone Landscape's been here. Stay off of it for really until it dries." And typically, what we're spraying is herbicide, fungicide, insecticide. It's nothing that is known to be harmful.
Okay, can we let them finish their presentation so we can keep going?
No problem. Great questions, definitely. The tree, so again, these are just more areas that we noted. Just some of the turfs growing right into the beds, keep them edge. You saw a lot of crack weeds growing. Some areas that have some declining turf. I don't know if this is related to irrigation issues or if your soils are bad. Obviously, in our first 30 days, we would come in, we would speak with the board and Emily and really get an idea if these areas have always been bad. So if that's the case, then we're going to come in and do soil samples and really figure out what the issue is. Again, just some low-hanging canopy with that patio rostrum. It needs to be lifted. That tree can get damaged from vehicles and or it can hurt a potential pedestrian. I saw a dead or declining river birch tree next to a building. That's small enough to where our crew could come in and chop it down with the chainsaw. All right, I spoke about this earlier. This is our 30-60-90 plan. This is what we would meet with the board and Emily about. We would start the property off. The first 30 days, we have a list that we would go off these checklists, check off on each item, and then kind of go from there. We would do the same thing at the 60-day mark and then at the 90-day mark. And I can go through these if you'd like. I provided a few extra proposals so you guys can see those as well. All right, so this is our organizational chart. And I can go through this a little bit. Our VP, which lives in Greenfield Springs, Shane Solsby's our branch manager. We got some of our office personnel. Got Garrett Kennedy, your account manager, the leaf removal crew, mow crew, and the mow crew that you would have out here. All right, so this is some of the questions that you guys had earlier. This map, it's kind of confusing, but we would be out here for 2 days. So on day 1, we would complete this, so pretty much the right side of the property. Day 2, we would come in and do the left side of the property. So we sectioned the detail portion off into 3 sections. On the left side and 3 sections on the right side. So on the first day of the week, when we come in on day 1, we would detail this portion. So the next day when we come in to do our maintenance on this side, we would do this side. Week 2, the following week, we would come in and detail this. Second day, we would come in and detail this. Week 3, we would come in and do these. We do it in a 3-week schedule, just in case we do fall behind, so it falls into that 4th week. So we are touching everything once a month. And this could change, obviously. This is, once we get boots on the ground and actually do the work, it may change a little bit, but this can at least give you an idea that there is, that we've got a plan going in place. So this is our standard fertilization schedule. We do 6 applications, 6 blanket on your turf. We also do 2 blanket on your shrubs. And we also come back, spot treatment as needed. This is our blank irrigation template. This is what the property manager would be receiving at the end of each month. This would note any areas that you have that aren't working properly. Also, there will be a proposal if there are any repairs that are needed. All right, so on to our design section. So this is just one of the renderings that we did recently for Deerwood Golf and Country Club, which is right down the road. We've done a lot of enhancements out there recently. Our designers out there almost weekly. So it's right down the road, and actually the other day he popped in and just did a few renderings. Actually, it was yesterday that he did these. So just a few quick ones, just stuff that he saw out here that he thought we could improve upon. There is a lot of aging plant material. I know some of these center islands, and I'll get to this one over here, but you've got old juniper, you've got old juniper in these corners. It's just, at this point, it needs just to be removed. And whether you saw it over or come up with a replacement plant, just something needs to probably make sense, because, you know, when those juniper get as old as they are, there's so many open areas, open voids, so vines, weeds, everything grew into them. Next thing you know, we're going in there, we're trying to clean them, we're stepping on the branches, and it just makes it worse because they die. So a lot of that should probably get replaced. Again, you know, our designer's at your disposal. He's a graduate of the University of Florida with a landscape architecture degree.
And that architectural plan is included?
Yes, so that's free of charge, whether you use this or not. I mean, as long as we're your client. So don't call me if you don't pay.
I promise.
So just some quick references that are kind of around here. Twin Leaf is a large condo association off Marshall Boulevard. We've been doing that for, gosh, I think I put 2015. We've been there, I think, for 8 years or longer. Deerwood Golf and Country Club. It's a newer property, but for us, we've already made some significant improvements. Provided Kimberly's contact information. You can call her and ask how we're doing. Garrett's very involved out there. So, Beacon Lakes, that's a large, newer community off 210. Really nice property. It's actually on HGTV, and it was the landscaping was one of the focuses on it as well.
Yep.
So it was really cool to be a part of that. So this is our investment or your investment page. I can go into that, and you know, regarding the leaf removal, I can certainly put that in there.
Yeah. Anything we can clarify? We're better off. You know,
Okay. Yeah, certainly. And then our frequency page, this kind of breaks everything down. If we were to reach a formal agreement, this would be part of the agreement.
Yeah.
So if we need to add more description to it, we're more than open to do
Yeah,
that.
we intend to do a formal contract and have it reviewed by our attorney before we sign it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
we do.
We're flexible on that, we understand. So again, 50 visits, 42 mowings, 12 detailings. You know, that's just more or less saying that we're going to pretty much focus once a month, 12 months out of the year. Your 6 blanket applications, I already kind of ran through all that. The leaf removal, December through March. And so I want to back up a little bit and talk about this map and how we would section this off. So as you guys know, this property is huge and you've got a ton of canopy. I can't say we're going to remove every leaf out of here like 3 times. It would never happen if you do it. So we would section it off very similar to our detail map. So we would also communicate and make sure this is where you want our focus to be. But we would probably break it into thirds, so we would focus on certain areas every time we're out on property. So that way we're keeping track. Obviously, we know when we're out and we're on a scheduled maintenance visit that we're going to have to kind of get some stuff up as well.
So, like, okay, but one thing I wanted you and I talk about, I kind of want to reiterate to the crowd, just because the leaves are abundant and they're working hard on them, does not mean that they're going to neglect the rest of their duties.
Correct.
So,
and that's why I alluded to the fact that on our off weeks, so that's why it's a 50 visit agreement. So 1 week we would be here, the full crew doing your maintenance. The next week we would be here, usually with the leaf vac, you operate with 2 people. So we would have 2 people run that leaf vac, and like I mentioned, we'll identify the areas that we're going to address and kind of go from there.
okay, I just wanted to clarify that too, just to
Right.
make sure that everybody knows that we're at full service all year long.
Yep.
Okay.
And one thing that I haven't touched on, and I'm kind of wrapping up now, is account management. Like I mentioned before, I was an account manager for, 8 years. He was an account manager as well. A big part of what we do is communication. We can't be successful if we're not communicating with the board and the management. So what we like to do is, if we can do monthly property walks, that way we can do the site audit pros, like I was mentioning, we just kind of identify areas, and then we can provide a report for your meetings as well, so you can have that.
Okay.
There's a question. Where do you take your material that's the mulch material and such? How do you dispose of that? That's first. Second, what do you think of our hedges, and how would you approach fixing them?
fixing it. Okay, for your first question, we dump everything at our site. We have a grapple truck that comes in and picks it all up. So we have it sectioned off, so if it's, Garrett's probably.
Yeah, so, in our shop, we have a giant debris pile.
You don't have a mulch facility or?
No, we take that stuff off. So, you know.
To backtrack though, we do for our arbor side, so if we take down trees, they do come back. It's a different grapple truck that will pick up that, and they will take that to a mulch facility.
Okay, our hedges.
Hedges. So we would have to identify that. It really depends. I've noticed that you've got you've got Iliagnus, you've got viburnum. It's really however the community wants them. To sit here and say that we'll drop everyone, 3 or 4 feet, I don't think that's possible with the community this size, but if we identify the areas, we'd be open to it.
What do you do in the event of a hurricane? Is there a surcharge?
So as far as our scheduled maintenance, if we're out here, or if we didn't make it because of our scheduled maintenance because of the hurricane, it would be free of charge to come in and do a storm kind of cleanup. If we'd already been here for the week and you wanted us back out here, we would charge. Yes, sir. Because you got to think our resources are pretty thin at that point after a hurricane, so we're really trying to get as much help as we can and try to help all of our clients. One thing that I will mention, we go all the way up to North Carolina. What we've done is we've brought some of our North Carolina staff, some of our Georgia staff, come down and help us with the cleanup in the past.
And what we typically do, like, God forbid anything happens, we've been pretty fortunate the last couple of years, but, say there was a hurricane and we were gonna send the maintenance crew in. Typically, we'll communicate this with the board and the property manager, but typically what we like to do is that next service when we would come in here, we wouldn't be mowing and stuff like that. We would bring chainsaws, we would be doing more debris cleanup.
So is that within the contract, or is that additional?
So if it's part of your scheduled weekly visit, yes, we would take care of it.
It would not be an extra charge, no. Now, if
Like,
you have,
let's say you've been here, and then the hurricane hits, and it's a Thursday, if we call you in, that's an extra
to come
charge.
back, absolutely, that would be an extra charge, just because it's in addition to the contract.
Sure.
And again, that's when it really helps us having a full service arbor team. That if you guys have giant trees that our maintenance crews aren't going to be able to get because it's more technical removal, something they need equipment to remove, then that would be something that obviously we can help you guys out with. That would be an additional charge, of course, but we have the capability to be able to help that, to get roadways cleared, parking lots, things like that. So.
Our community, what do you suppose is the best features of our community, and what are the worst features of these communities?
So the best feature of your community, I would say hands down, is your canopies. Old or newer communities, you don't have that anywhere. Everywhere they completely just drop everything. So I love properties like this, so I would say your best feature of your property is your mature trees.
Double-edged sword, but.
Yes, so, and it's also the worst thing about it. Okay. So I think I've already.
Quick question, if I understood you correctly, you're saying you can maintain this property by dividing it in half and having crew on the property, a 3-man crew, 2 times a week, and supplementing with a 4th person as needed.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is also going to deal with all of the leaf drop that has always been a problem.
Right.
So you're saying you're gonna be able to you're capable of doing that in 2 days?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Are you saying that the leaf drop is going to be manned by a 2-man crew in addition to the regular maintenance?
So we would have a crew here 50 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
1 week, so on the off season, nothing's really growing. So if we needed to focus that,
I see.
so we would do 1 week, we would be doing our maintenance core maintenance of the property, and then the following week we would come in and we would do the leaf removal.
So you're saying you're gonna mow what, every other week?
Correct.
Yeah.
During
1 week you're gonna mow every other week during the growing season?
No.
This is during.
Because you just said that you're doing detail 1 week and then you're doing mowing the next.
Yeah, I'm referring to that.
And you're saying that you're going to, if I'm understanding you correctly, that your regular maintenance crew will also be dealing with the leaf removal. Am I correct in that?
So the leaf
There will
drop.
not be an extra crew.
Right, no, so the leaf drop is typically gonna be the worst from December to March.
August. You seen the sycamores?
Yeah, so, again,
Your heavy, leaf drop.
the heaviest leaf drop is during the winter, which is when we're not having to mow as much, so that's why he's saying the supplemental, maintenance to leaf drop.
During your growing season, we're here 2 days a week, every single week.
And you're mowing the entire property every week?
Every week, yes, yeah.
Every week.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you guys.
Gonna pause for a second until the next one starts.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Devin Koopman. I'm with Duval Landscape Maintenance. I'm the Business Development Manager. And this is my colleague, Micah Mohana. He's our landscape designer. And before anything else, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your dinner, your evening, to the community leadership for the opportunity to introduce ourselves, to present our offering, as well as hopefully entertain some questions about our company and exactly who we are. So I will, from a high level, talk about our offering. I don't want to get into the maintenance. That's pretty basic. I think you understand what goes into it. We'll welcome any question. But I want to talk about our company a little bit, as well as how we feel we differentiate ourselves. So we are locally, our headquarters is local. We have 6 branches throughout the state of Florida, and what we like to say is we're big enough to hang with the Yellowstones, but we're still small enough to know you. The owner of our company works right down the hall from me. His name is Rob Bullock. I can go in his office any day of the week, call him any time of the night, ask him for help. And that's nice, because we don't have to follow a spreadsheet, and that matters, because when you're chasing the reins and you get behind, it certainly helps. So, again, Jacksonville is our headquarters here. We're right down the road, we're stone's throw, next to the VW dealership, off of Phillips and Business Park Boulevard. So, you have our proposal. We sent it to you before. Again, I would just like to reiterate, on page 8 of our proposal, I don't know if you have it. Okay. 8 talks about, no, it's okay. Unless, does anybody have any copies?
I don't have it.
Would you like to, yeah, I can put it on. If you give me 2 minutes.
Let's pause here.
Back on. Sorry about the delay. So, right here are 5 areas where we feel we are going to succeed in the community. You want a physical copy?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. One extra. Yes, sir. And based on my estimate, based on my branch manager came through the community, he has 30 years of experience, so it's a blend of digital work, me walking the property, as well as his real life experience. If I tell him, Mike, I think it's going to take 24 hours, he said, Devin, you're crazy. There's no way you can get that done. You're going to need 40 hours. So we blend those two into our estimate, and based on the areas of concern that have been shared with us, we built this plan around our estimate. And those center around weed and insect control, irrigation efficiency, obviously manpower, communicating and reporting, and then a landscape plan. So Mike is going to get into what exactly a landscape plan is, but I just will drive home 2 points. And I brought this up to the community. We have knuckleheads that work for us. I will not sugarcoat it. But the difference is we have an irrigation team that I can tell you is one of the best in Jacksonville, because our irrigation manager on a monthly basis.
Speak up, please. They can't hear you on the Zoom.
Thank you. Our irrigation team is very, very efficient. And I hope we get the chance to show you that. And the reason we always bring that up is because on a monthly basis, someone tries to poach our irrigation manager from us. His name is Josh Boucher. And what we'll do is we'll come out and we'll assess the irrigation system. We're going to create a irrigation map where the zones are, where the valves are, and assess the irrigation system, because it doesn't matter how good your flowers are, how green the grass is, new the plants are, without irrigation, we're dead in the water. So, irrigation will be a priority for us. And secondly is our communication. So we have internal layers of accountability. For example, a big selling point for us is, I don't just sell the job and leave, right? We are trying to build a relationship with this community, with all of our communities. And what that means is we want it for more than a year. We want it for 5, 10 years. And we found, to be successful at that, is there has to be a bridge between operations and the community. So, what the salesperson does, myself, is we will be at the board meetings if we're requested, the property walks. We will be, along with our account manager, responsible for making sure the contract is on. Furthermore, our reporting. So we have weekly property walks that we welcome with the property manager. We have irrigation reports, agronomy reports. We have internal reporting that we're supposed to do for our team, as well as reports that are sent to the property manager to fill out on how we're doing. Is it a perfect system? No, we're getting there though. And those layers of accountability prevent a molehill from becoming a mountain. So, these are the 5 areas that we found are critical to our success here. There's one point that I will just kind of glaze over, and that's on page 16. Mike, if you'll roll, this is our frequency chart. And I'll keep going down, I think it's right here. Go back up. Yeah, sorry. One more down.
You want 16?
16. So what this is it's a snapshot of what your year is going to look like. And the takeaway is that we've done all the hard work. This, in a nutshell, is how many visits, how many cuts. When our agronomy is going to be here, and the different services throughout the year. So there is detailed work that goes into that estimate and into that process. So it's not as simple as just driving around and guessing at how many hours we need to be out here. And lastly, before I introduce you to Micah, I just want to talk about our 90-day plan. So this is critical to any community, especially one this size, this detail. You obviously love your home, you're all here for a reason. We will lean heavily on Emily at our first 90 days, from where to park our trucks to the action items and our priorities, right? There's a lot of work to be done, and if we work hand in hand with her, we will prioritize those issues, those concerns, and continually work to enhance the community hand in hand. But this is a snapshot of what our first 30 days, our first 60 days, and our 90 days will look like in the community. So we mentioned a little bit about a landscape plan and why that's important. I would like to introduce Micah Mohana, our landscape designer, and I'll let you fill it in.
Thanks, Evan. So it's going to be a little bit hard for me to jump up and down, so I'm just going to stay seated here if that's okay, so I can use my computer. So my only position within the company is to do landscape design for our clients. What I would provide for you might be, forget what you think a landscape plan looks like, a 2D sort of plan where you're trying to figure out what symbols and what goes where and you try to crack a code or whatever that is. What I do is I put together 3D landscape models which also not only show you exactly what the project's going to look like, but allows you to interact with it and get a much better idea in terms of what scope looks like out here. So, if you're looking at like a 2D plan and you're like, is this the clubhouse I'm looking at? I think it sometimes is a little bit inaccessible to clients. But what I'm going to show you here is one of many designs that we do for our customers. This particular one is St. John's Golf and Country Club. You can see it's like a recent one. We just started working on it today, as a matter of fact. The input I got from the board was just really simple. We want we do our entrances, these are the areas that we're looking at doing, help us. And so my first step is I do like an online meeting or an in-person meeting with my computer, sitting here and going, okay, here's an idea, what do you think about this, what do you think about this? 75% done, you like this idea, this direction, and then from there I take it and finalize the project. You know, at that 75% point, I provide figures just for conversation points. Here's how much this would be, and you know, and that sort of thing. It's the speed of play that I work at, and that my team and I work at is very fast. You would be the first people that ever caught up to me. I will have your first year, whatever your total goals are to accomplish in the first year, done, likely before we start working on your property. So in other words, let's say you approved your maintenance agreement. If the very next week, I would prefer to have that conversation to see what it is that you all want to do, what your goals are. My goal is I want, and our company's goal is we want things to look different on day one when we begin this maintenance agreement. So if we're doing, you get perhaps like, maybe the main entrance out there, you have the wall on both sides. You can't see any of that architecture. It's completely covered up. You can almost, kind of miss your entranceway a little bit because you don't see any of that part of the wall. I see that as an opportunity to maybe show some of that wall part off and maybe kind of simplify some of that out and come up with a better design for it. Also going with your monument sign, we can make an improvement there or wherever it is that's important to you all. It's not really for me to say necessarily. But I would like to show a difference, like on when we first begin work on the property. Once we get past that, then I start working on, once we get past that being your first year plan, I start working on your second year plan. And then usually stay about 2 years out in front of you with everything that you need to have done on your property. So what it's going to look like is you will have a 3D model built of your property with showing all the different areas that we're looking to make changes on. So you can go to around any building that you want and see, what's going to go there. So it looks a little bit like this one. I also printed out the exact proposal that our clients approved for us because I want you to see our pricing is in line and competitive with, it's a fair market value on that. And there's no additional fee or hidden expense for my services anywhere in your agreement. A lot of people have a difficult time understanding that once they start getting back certain things from me, they're like, are you sure you don't talk to them? It's free. Because, once we get in to start doing like, 3D models like I have in here, right, it's kind of like, I know what technology is available to do this job, and I know that this is the kind of the cutting edge technology that's out there. And, it's available to you and to your community. So I also put together like a little, sorry about the resolution, but all I want you to pick up that I want you to gain from this is that it is in 3D, that you can go through it, you can look up and look at it. And I think one of the best things is that I share one link with whoever I'm working with, the property manager or a member or whatever. There's one link to click on, and you can go in here and view the whole design without downloading anything or doing anything. Every time I make an update on your plan, you use the same link and you go in there and you look at the update that I made and it will take you to it. So it's a way that allows me to communicate with my clients as I'm doing things. Like I like my clients to know what I'm building and what I'm doing and all of that. It's not a lot of like back and forth, like, that's what you might be thinking, but it's it's there whenever you wanna go in and view it, which I think is a really, really handy tool. I don't have to sit here and make these elaborate presentations just to show you what I've recently created. So one other thing about the design tool and the way that I get to where you all need to go, so I sat out there and in about 5 minutes, I took this picture tonight before I went, I don't know if y'all saw me like walk out, but I just grabbed a picture of one of the buildings there and then I came back and, like I just did like a quick little design rendering of the side of that building. It's, granted, like I'm not, trying to go like over the top and go crazy fancy here. I'm just coming up with, I just want to show you what capabilities are. This is something that perhaps you tell me you want tools, this, that, I'll go through, I'll get the pictures, we'll do a Zoom meeting, I can show you like, okay, well you don't like this plant here, or, I can take that out there if you want to put in, and I'm just going very random here just to show you the capabilities, you want to put that plant in there, you like that, that's cool, like, I can show you what all of that looks like. So the meetings that I have with clients, it's kind of my favorite part of the job, because I was like, I'm spoiled, I get everything I want from my company. And I even have VR goggles, right? Like, if you want to go there, and you think that that's nerdy, it is, but it's really, really useful to put on a set of goggles and look around and see what a design looks like. It's an experience, but there's a lot of ways that we can get there. So more than just a guy that kind of knows how to operate a computer, this is all I've done my whole life. Like, I know everything about plants. Like, everything that is in a landscape that needs to be built, I can do with my own hands. I can rebuild a valve manifold. I can, do everything that I'm proposing to do, so I understand how it actually gets done, which I think sets me miles apart from just like a regular landscape architect that's never done the work, that goes sitting somewhere in Georgia going, yeah, I think like this will all work out here like this. It's not how I do it. Like, I literally come out and I will take a 360-degree video of the entire property, so that when I sit in my office and you go, I want to do this area, I can go there and go, yep, that's what's there, let me update the plan and make it exact. So precision is really, really important to me, and so is how fast I'm able to turn things around. Like I said, I never want you to catch me, and you will not be able to catch me unless you have an unlimited amount of money. Like, it's not going to happen. So one other thing that we need to do, right, before we do the landscape plans, I might not be the funnest person to work with because I say no a lot. At least I hear myself say that, but like, if you wanted to just say, like, put in plants at this pool area, put them out there, or redo sod or whatever, my answers could be like, yes, here's your design, here's what it is, but I'm not doing that until we do certain things. One is I have to have full confidence in your irrigation system out there, so I need your clean bill of health from our glorious irrigation tech to say, yes, you're good to put plants up there, we have coverage, and the clock works, and we're good with it. Towards the end of the year, February 21st, there's a cutoff date for the St. Johns River Water Management District who offers a grant, which I'm the only guy, like, I am the only one that has been able to write a grant through the St. Johns River Water Management District for clock upgrades, right, to take the clocks from having no brains and not knowing what the weather is like, and not knowing what it's watering, and just starting and stopping, to updating it to a smart clock that talks to a satellite and knows it's going to rain 2 days from now and goes, you know what, we're not going to water today because we're getting 2 inches on Friday. Friday comes, we don't get the water. It goes, you know what, we're pretty good on water, we've had a lot lately, so why don't we just go through and water all the shrub zones and skip all the lawn zones? Your pump that you probably have to replace every so often will not need to be replaced nearly as often because it's not going to run as much. So I'm going to want to write a grant for 50% of updating your clock to a smart clock, which, by the way, you're going to probably have to do in 10 years from now anyways. It's going to be like in some counties on new construction, they're already mandating putting in smart clocks. But each clock, just FYI, it's not really even that big of an investment in the grand scheme of things. It's about $3,000, and the grant will cover about $1,500 of that. Part two, really important to me, is I want to know when there's a break on your zone the second it happens. There's a way to do that, and I can get 50% of the material and labor to put that in through the grant. So let's say that I have a flow sensor, which is our own meter on your main irrigation pipe. That flow meter talks to the smart clock, that smart clock talks to our irrigation tech, right? So zone 2 goes on, and somebody ran over 3 irrigation heads over there, kicked over an irrigation head, and you got Old Faithful going when that zone goes on, right? That flow meter is going to say, hey, wait, that's not right. Like, there's just 20% more water went through here. So I'm going to send Josh, our irrigation tech, a notification that something funny happened out here on zone 3, and I'm going to shut this zone down. I'm going to skip it, go to the next one, and then Josh is going to get that notification. And instead of doing this the hard way, which right now we have to go on every zone to find a break. We can go to that report and go, okay, before I start turning on every zone, let me go to 3, 9, 12, 15, and whatever else, and fix those, and then let me go through my regular irrigation thing. So basically taking care of the problems, and then just doing a visual check on all the other nozzles to make sure everything's working. So 2 really critical things to me that get done, and then that only helps you all to protect your investment, so that when we do bring plants here, we're bringing them into a nice, happy environment that is safe and is not going to have irrigation.
I'm like, is there a limit to those grants?
Yeah, $1 million.
$1 million.
Yep. So the thing is that this particular grant, like I said, I'm the only guy that's done the lower landscape sort of part of it, right? Because it is kind of complicated. But what they're funding are alternative water supply sort of things for municipalities that are like larger grant sort of things. But it's all in this document that like you all are qualified to take advantage of it too. It's not to that amount, like but it covers 4 things. It covers the clock, the flow meters. If we needed to get into going with low flow nozzles, it would cover that, and then there's one other valve. It'll cover drip irrigation and then like some valve pressure. Too much information, but you need the first 2 things. Yeah. I'm done. Yeah.
Any questions? That's what, questions, please.
Questions.
So, Micah, you would write this grant?
Yep.
Would you charge to write the grant?
No.
So you.
We gotta reinvest back into the community.
So let me just explain.
We'll take the full $1 million.
So
it's a little more complicated than that. They've got it figured out. You can't really get that one over on them. But if you think about it, it's a really good win-win for us and for you all, and also for the St. Johns River Water Management District. They really, if you look at how much water you're going to save by putting on a smart clock, they're very motivated for you all to do that, right? So that's a win for them. It's a win for you because you save 50% and your landscape looks a lot better. And it's a win for us because it's profitable work to do. So yes, I'm going to do that for free, happily.
The response rate, how fast?
On getting it approved. So the deadline date is on the 21st of February, so it's a bit of a timeline, right? We'll start on it I'll start on it in November. There will be very little input that would be required from a property manager or a board president, but there's basically signatures. You need to have a conversation with this lady named Deirdre from the St. John's place. She just wants to make sure that, yes, you're working with me and all that sort of stuff. Deadline's on February 21st. I think sometime like March 1st, they say if it's been accepted. But I get like a wink from Deirdre that yes, this looks good, it'll get accepted, but technically I'll get an email like I think on March 1st, and then about a month later I'll get a final yes, you've been approved sort of thing, and then There's a bit of information that you all need to know. I don't know if I can like cover, but like payment terms and how you're gonna recoup your money and all that sort of stuff.
Alright, so
There's a
go over all
big,
those details later.
Next.
yeah, it's a bit.
Yes, sorry.
So the basic contract price for your basic monthly service, not talking about irrigation and all of that, is almost $12,000 based on the proposal. Am I correct in that? Divides out to 11,946, I believe.
When you say monthly maintenance,
Or your annual maintenance, what's the monthly cost? It divides out, it's 144,000 and some odd.
yeah,
Divided by
that
12.
includes mulch. The weekly maintenance, for 50 weeks, we have it at 104,000.
Yeah. And then you added mulch to that, how much?
We have mulch in at 38,400.
That's if we want mulch.
That's, yeah.
Well, we have no mulch, so I guess we need mulch, so that goes to 144. How much mulch are you gonna bring in for that project?
And we quoted for the community 800 cubic yards.
Okay, alright. Steve has a question.
This is our.
It's not a question, but more a comment. You know, I appreciate all the sales pitch on the crayons and all that stuff, but we would like to know how he's gonna mow the grass.
Yeah.
And pick up the leaves.
Yes.
You know, we need to know.
Okay.
And
There hasn't been any discussion about the service itself.
That's you then.
You're right, absolutely, and
Or what we need to hear now.
then let's talk about the maintenance, right? Week to week, because we're gonna be in your community a couple days a week, and what that'll look like. So, I'll start with the lead control. We have proposed to the community that we will come in here every week through the winter, through the fall, except for on Thanksgiving and Christmas. During those visits, we're gonna perform our normal maintenance, but we're also going to, because of the plethora of mature trees and plant life, you have a lot of leaf fall. To coincide with the two major leaf falls from your live oaks, which will be in the fall and in the spring, we propose an additional 2 visits, which we are offering as a credit to the community as a leaf cleanup at the end of our proposal on page 32. This is a supplemental crew that will come in and do a site-wide cleanup of all the leaves. This is in conjunction with our weekly leaf cleanup. So we're going to be doing it throughout the year, but with these 2 times of the year, we just get dumped with leaves. And there's no catching up to that, so that's why when we've done it at 2 other communities and had tremendous success. Now, I'm sure you know, it's like as soon as we pick the leaves up, the next day it's like they weren't even there. And that's not gonna change unless we're in here 5 days a week. So, what we do is we chip away at the leaves every week, work on the maintenance, and then the 2 times a year, when we have these major leaf falls, we come in and do a site-wide cleanup. And we have found that to be budget friendly, as well as economically friendly to the community. So, for the leaf fall, Mr. Steve, that's how we're going to work on that. With regards to the maintenance, we're in here 2 days a week. We budgeted for 2 days a week to be in here. The 4-man crew, sorry, I'm just filming. And we're gonna be in here, and it's going to be that crew. Now, I will not pretend that it won't be the exact same crew. I won't lie to you. Every single week, but that crew will be assigned to your community. They will probably have a sick day. One guy will be out. But that will be communicated to the community manager, and you won't see a dip in service because we will have articulated that and budgeted and planned accordingly. So, I want to set expectations from the beginning that this is your assigned crew. They're going to learn the community. They're going to work and be the most efficient. Will they be here 365 days of the year? They will not. But that is their assigned property. We're going to detail the property into 4 sections. We can't get through the entire property all in one visit to detail it. One day is going to be focused primarily on mowing. The second day is going to be, primarily focused on the detail. weather permitting. If we get rained on, we're gonna come in and do what we can through trimming and come back. We're not gonna jeopardize the landscape to try and keep on schedule. Again, this needs to be communicated to the manager. Emily, hey, we can't mow the lake banks because it's wet. We're getting the areas we can. She understands that, sends that to the board, and then we work to compensate. Yes, please. Your shoulder's got to be sore.
How do you remove the leaves? Specifically, what do you do? Do you have a box truck? Do you have a vacuum? Do you use tarps and rakes? And secondly, what is your normal work day? I mean the number of hours. What time do you come in? What time do you leave?
It's a typical 8-hour workday, and then for the leaf fall, it is a combination. Because of a community like this, it's not all wide open. So we're gonna have to use backpacks, we're gonna have to use rakes, and we have a leaf vac that we also utilize. So what we'll do is we'll blow it out into the streets, and we'll pile it up, we'll take it away on trailers, we'll suck it up in the vacs. It'll be a combination.
And just one more quick question, the
absolutely.
Size of your crew?
It'll be a 4-man crew.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Same question that was posed before. So we've got a lot of areas that are a little overgrown. We as a community are working on getting them under control. At what point do you take over, or are you going to come in and include that in your initial maintenance? Palmettos, for example, trimming back those. A lot of our flower gardens, a number of us are already doing things like hedge trimming on our own, cleaning the tennis courts, things like that. We're all doing on our own.
Yeah, I was joking with Vic. I need to get him a couple of shirts because you guys are doing great work. Some of those palmettos are, I mean, I know how tough they are. Talking about being hands-on, Mike has done a lot of work. I have my own landscape company. That's impressive. Those are beasts. So what we will do is we will maintain them at what they are. But we can't be expected to come into the community and revitalize everything. And I think you appreciate that.
Yep.
So we can do it one of two ways. We can chip away throughout the year and a half that it takes to get the community around. Or if there's areas that we want right away, we can propose that. And once it's cleaned up, it's ours to maintain.
But what if the committee, so they work in the fall and they work on, you know, another large section.
Sure.
That's going to add to what you have to maintain. And then in March, they pick up again and they take care of another large section. So now these are 2 other sections that weren't even a part of the proposal, so will that make it?
We maintain it, we maintain it.
Right, and that will be situational, right? So the palmettos, for a perfect example, right? The ones that you've cleaned out, those are not gonna overgrow overnight, right? Those will take an entire year to get anywhere close to resembling what they are now. Those are simple as a few cuts and pull back. That we can maintain. But, and I can't think of anything where we wouldn't take it on. Vines will be able to pull down, cut off from tree limbs. Now, tree canopy heights, but we're gonna have to work to raise those throughout the community. But
so you would not, I guess we would have to address it as it comes to it, you know, at the end of the year in the fall when they take on a large area like they did in our building 9 and then on the other side. Will that potentially?
no, that will not, we will not increase the price based on those palmettos.
Yeah, we talked about
Yeah,
this.
we did
The
talk about
property
this.
is the property, and whatever we have decent, they're maintaining, but.
Yeah, and as we add, we will maintain.
That's real stuff.
Now,
Right, guys,
we will-
are-
The only area that comes to mind is that large area in between all the buildings that we had all cleared up. There will have to be an expectation that maybe one time a year, we come through and bush hog, we clean it up. But where you've gotten it and done all that work, we will work with the community to keep it that way, absolutely.
So if we do 10 areas,
We just answered this. He's gonna.
just let me ask the question. If we do 10 areas and you're like, okay, we'll maintain it, and then we do another 10 areas, are you gonna maintain it?
That is the plan, that is the plan. I don't know, we've got 20 areas in here, and we can take that on as we go, but there was one, what's the courtyard where we were talking about clearing out all of
Yeah,
that?
that's between 9 and 10.
So the area between 9 and 10, that's a pretty large piece of landscape.
Yeah.
That would be something that we would propose once a year to clean out. Because that isn't as simple as, for example, a palmetto cluster across the way, right? I can knock that out in a couple hours. That would take me a couple of visits to keep down.
Devin, that's the one that we talked about, that Vic said that you guys have a 2 to 3 year plan, correct? To kind
Yeah,
of-
the landscape committee had talked about
Yeah.
doing something there eventually. I mean, we cleaned it out, the perimeters
Yeah,
cleaned
so
out.
I don't really think
Yeah,
we gotta worry too much about
that's a
that
year
right
down
now.
the road
It's more
at
than-
least before we do anything with it.
Yeah, and we are very comfortable in taking on those clusters, we'll call them palmetto clusters.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, keep going. That's really what I had. Mike had drove home about the irrigation and,
What about the weed control, the shore guard, and all of the extra stuff that you do before, like the, I didn't get your name, but you mentioned about, you asked about the mulch and stuff like that, so I think that's a pretty hot topic thing, and I'm wondering, sitting here, how are we gonna do that when it's like the beginning of summer? And, you're gonna have leaf drop coming up here, like, in the fall, and then you're gonna have it in this early in the year, and then, all the mulch is gonna wash, like, how are we gonna do that? That's what I wanna know, because specifically, you would wanna put your mulch down, invest that after your leaf drop, like, you should have all just put it down, right? Like, it's kinda getting a little bit late, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about that.
Well, we're more so thinking probably next year.
Yeah, we're
We're not
probably.
talking.
That's
that
cool.
way
That's cool.
add to that, we can budget
That-
for it. That's why we're not concerned about the largest price you
Yeah.
just showed us, because that's a separate thing that we're gonna
We-
analyze down the road. It's
Yeah.
more the 104 thing that we're looking at as an apples to apples to
Oh.
who we have and who who else we're looking at with it.
Yep, just on the weed control component of it though, before we put down mulch, right, spring is a big time event, at least it should be. Fertilizer needs to go down, a granular pre-emergent needs to go down, and then we can mulch over the top of it. Please do not put your mulch, like, just for me, and, I do not like having mulch in a service agreement, because it's a little hard to get in there and change that. I'm always looking at taking that 800, when he said 800 yards of mulch, I was like, oh my gosh, what a waste of money. But I understand it's really important, but, I would just wanna look at constantly working that number down and investing that money a little bit more wisely, and then getting rid of that year-over-year expense. So in terms of mulch, that's how I look at it. I think it's good to have it budgeted for, but I always want less of it.
And that's.
What was that procedure again?
That's how they've been doing it.
Okay.
Can you repeat that procedure? So
Fertilization and pre-emergent, and then mulch on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for some reason, all of our beds have expanded in size over the last year.
Sure.
And so the amount of mulch we would need now is a lot more than it should be. And over the year, I expect whatever company comes in to work that back to where they should be normal sized beds. So by the time everything's ready for mulch, we won't have to pay for so much mulch.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
also don't think
Yeah.
that you should see mulch. I don't think mulch is made to be seen. I think it serves, in my mind, it serves a function. And by that, I mean, that bed that's right over across the water there, I'm like, why are we looking at all that mulch? Why can't we put a ground cover in there that'll cover that area out and look nicer, and then we don't have to mulch it all the time?
Yes.
Right.
I just see it like differently, and that's why I'm like, if you ask me to mulch that, I didn't ask you 5 other questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we wanna talk about the sugar?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that we like to promote as a premium product because it makes such a difference in the community. It's a, how do I put it? It is your best friend. So it doesn't completely eliminate weeds. What it does is it casts a barrier on top of your beds, and it prevents new weed growth as well as kills existing. Is it 100%? By no means. About 80% of weed, more?
No, like, it does
Yeah.
enough to make it like a drastic difference.
You're talking about a weed blanket?
So it's a liquid product that we apply throughout the bed space, and it just has tremendous benefits from visual to labor and time, because now that time that I've allotted pulling weeds, knocking weeds down, or hand spraying, I can allocate that towards limbing up trees, getting these palmetto clusters, working throughout the community, blowing out the property. So, and we include that in all of our base bids because it makes such a difference. And I don't know if any of the others did. I would strongly encourage you to push that with them. If you do, go with Yellowstone. But it makes a big difference. And we're promoting it, or we budgeted it throughout the entire community.
Yeah. Basically means we won't be spending our summers killing weeds. We can actually keep up with the details.
Yeah, full disclosure. Full disclosure, we're gonna get in trouble with the rainy season. It just happens every year. So if you take corrective measures, like pre-emergent like this, and we can't be in here and the weeds are still growing, we're fighting them even more than we can. So.
Also, you know, with your weeds, overwatering kind of causes a lot of weed problems. I don't know if you've heard. And the smart controllers do so much to help out with that. Like I can go through and I see what's causing a lot of your issues over here, and it's.
Do you think we have fungus problems?
You know what? You have a lot of shade, so yes, you're always gonna naturally gonna have fungus issues within your turf. So without a doubt, you're gonna have fungus issues, but that's only gonna be exacerbated by overwatering too much anyways, and not having a smart controller know if it just rained or not, and then your irrigation, it just rained and then your irrigation goes back on again and dumps hundreds of gallons out again. Yeah, it's gonna create massive fungus problems that is never gonna destroy.
I have a question about tree canopy.
Yes, sir.
What is included in the maintenance on the tree canopy?
10 feet. 10 feet is typically, if they can reach up and grab the limit 11,
Anywhere on the property, hanging down in the middle of the street,
throughout the community.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So in the event, I'll go back to this hurricane thing, now do you come, how many days a week do you come?
During the summer, we're budgeted for 2 days a week in here.
2 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if there's a hurricane, what's your procedure?
So we have a form that goes through our hurricane plan essentially, and it's a signed agreement letting you know, because, and you should know this ahead of time with whoever you select, that way you aren't surprised with the costs that come with it, right? It's a premium. Guys are working overtime, material is sparse, they're coming into a dangerous environment, and what we'll do is we'll come in, cut up any debris that is blocking homes, doors, roads, we'll put that to the side, and then we'll go on to the next community. Those communities that sign on are priority, and then we'll work through the other communities. That's how we process the hurricane cleanups. And we do that with all of our communities. Yes, sir.
What's your vacuum truck? What kind of vacuum truck do you have?
The shop, I'm the shop. I don't know the brand, size, and the motor of the Leaf X, but I can get that.
How big is the truck?
I do not know.
Is it like a pickup truck size, a small lawnmower size?
We put it on the back of our F-450 dump truck, so it's big enough to fill, not like a pickup truck, it's like a true dump truck, so.
So what size is the hose then?
I won't lie to you, I do not know, sir, I'm sorry. All right, I apologize.
Thank you.
You got me on that.
Okay, we have one more question.
I'm just curious, and I may have missed it, and I apologize for being late, but is part of this work, are we talking about tree trimming around here? We've got some trees and that are hanging, that could be a high risk for building structures right now because of hurricane season coming. So I don't know if that's part of something you're talking about as well.
No, that's on the agenda for tonight's meeting, we're gonna be talking about that.
I'm sorry?
We have estimates from tree companies for that, and it's on the agenda.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop the video at this point. That's the presentations. We'll do the board meeting separately. So we'll start over in a few minutes.